Welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm Andrew Kavanaugh, and I want to say thank you for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. Today on the channel, I'm going to be wrapping up my Clint Eastwood series. As I mentioned in two previous videos in which I reviewed Pale Rider and The Outlaw Josey Wales, Warner Brothers Home Entertainment and SDS Studio Distribution Services was nice enough to send me 3 movies very recently, and actually before they're released to the public. All these movies come out on April 29th, which is coming soon. I'm posting this video on April 29th, so if you're seeing this, these are actually available now. But the movie I'm going to be reviewing today is one of my all-time favorites. It's definitely one of the best films to come out of America in the 70s. This is an absolute masterpiece of an action film, and in more ways than one is kind of one of these movies that started the action movie genre. Any movie that has cops chasing bad guys, any movie that is about somebody chasing a serial killer or anything like that, you have this movie to thank, and that is, of course, Dirty Harry, starring Clint Eastwood. This is the first of 5 Dirty Harry movies, and it's finally been restored, completely remastered on 4K with HDR10 and an all-new Dolby Atmos audio track. This one was... this is probably one of the most highly anticipated releases for me of the year. I adore this movie. This is such a phenomenal film in so many ways. I know when it came out back in 1971, it was a little bit before my time, almost 20 years before my time. But this movie, I know, had kind of a controversial release when it first came out. I remember talking to my mom not long ago about this movie. She saw this in theaters when it first came out, and she said people were, like, appalled by this movie, but people liked it. Like, it was a weird thing where people loved this movie, but they also were kind of, like, shocked by how graphic and how violent this movie was. And Clint Eastwood's character of Harry Callahan was a very different hero compared to a lot of these other movies that came out at the time. He changed the game with this, and Don Siegel's direction and Bruce Surtees's cinematography in this is really something to behold. So when I found out that Warner Brothers was coming out with this in 4K, I was so glad when they told me they were going to send this to me. So big thanks to Warner Brothers for sending this out. As I always say before I review any of these movies, I always like to mention the fact that I am not getting paid monetarily at all by Warner Brothers to review these. My opinion that I put on these reviews is mine and mine alone. I only have to make a video or some sort of content in order to get these products. So I don't have to speak highly about them. I can give them a bad review. It doesn't matter. So far, the other 2 Clint Eastwood movies have been spectacular in terms of picture and audio quality, and the special features have been pretty nice too, and this also comes with some new special features. So if you're new to the channel here, definitely make sure to hit that subscribe button and that little bell icon so you're alerted to new reviews. I do a lot of reviews of 4K Ultra HD releases, physical media in general. So if you're a fan of that, definitely hit that thumbs up and subscribe button. So let's jump right into the review here. Gonna start off with picture quality. I mentioned it in my Outlaw Josey Wales review, that I read that this film in particular was scanned in 8K from the original camera negative, the original 35mm camera negative. And I will say it does show on this disc. In my personal opinion, I don't think this one looks as good as Outlaw Josey Wales. I actually think that is a superior transfer, ironically enough. But this is definitely an amazing improvement over any previous release of this film. I've seen this movie on television. I had it on VHS. I had it on DVD. I've had it on Blu-ray. This is another movie that I've had on pretty much every format going back to the VHS days. And this movie, again, really shocked me with how spectacular the picture quality is on this. I wouldn't say it's as good as Josie Wales, ironically enough. I think Josie Wales is the winner out of all three of them. But one thing is for certain, daylight scenes now have a new life to them. They are brighter and more vibrant than they ever have been. Again, not as bright as Josie Wales, but they are very, very beautiful to look at and very well balanced as well. It never gets blindingly bright, which I think is really nice. The colors, as I mentioned, way more vibrant than they ever have. Colors are they just pop now. They're not saturated in any way. They're very lifelike. Skin tones are 100% accurate. One thing I really love about this new transfer is the HDR10 really helps with shades of colors. The blood is super red now. You can definitely tell it's very fake, but it's, it's part of the charm. This and Outlaw Josie Wales, the blood is very, very fake looking. Reds are much more vibrant. The blue skies are just so beautiful. Grays are very different shades. Harry wears a bunch of different suits in this movie, a lot of different sport coats and stuff. And you can really see the differential between different shades of browns, different shades of reds. Black levels are much more improved on this disc. That HDR10 helps out with the darker scenes, and there are a lot of them in this movie. The nighttime scenes are so much easier to look at now. Previous releases of this movie always had a lot of issues with black crush. The nighttime scenes were damn near unwatchable in a few moments of the film. Now they are all extremely well balanced, but Bruce Surtees, they did call him the Prince of Darkness for a reason. His photography in this movie is extremely dark, and there are moments where you can't see what's going on in certain scenes. That is not an issue with this disc. That is the way those scenes were shot. And that cinematography really shines now. All the nighttime scenes have black levels that are just about perfect. And I think of all the things in this new transfer, that's the one thing that really jumped out at me, was just how fantastic they were able to balance out those darker sequences. It was really, really well done. Detail level is also at an all-time high in this. There are many moments of close-ups of not just Clint Eastwood's face, but Andy Robinson's face as well. And you can really see every little wrinkle, every little thing in every actor's face. That steely glare that Clint Eastwood gives in this movie is just so iconic, and you can count like the hairs on his eyebrows now. It's unbelievable. There's a lot of close-ups of guns in this movie too, especially Harry's iconic Model 29, that .44 Magnum. And there's one shot in particular where you can actually read the inscription on the barrel now, and you can actually see it says .44 Magnum. It's really unbelievable. The detail level is incredible. That, of course, that famous scene, do you feel lucky? That famous moment now. There's one shot that kind of starts from like Clint's shoulders, and you can actually see the fibers of Clint's gray sport coat. That's how amazing this new transfer is. It was very, very impressive stuff. I don't think it's as good as Josie Wales, but this is the best this movie has ever looked. It's a 10 out of 10 for the transfer for this one. I was very impressed. As for the sound quality on this, this, as I mentioned, has an all-new Dolby Atmos mix, and it is phenomenal. Yet again, they did a great job with this Dolby Atmos mix. It's not as booming as Josie Wales, but it still has a pretty good punch to it regardless. The volume on this one, again, very, very loud, just like Pale Rider and Josie Wales. I did have to turn it up a little bit, maybe about 2-3 points, but it still sounded outstanding. Lalo Schifrin's score sounded amazing, and it really fills the room. The sound effects and dialogue all sounded outstanding. They're all perfectly placed. Overheads in this one are actually used to much better effect than the other two Eastwood movies I reviewed. This one has scenes of helicopters overhead, and that's when that Atmos can really shine. The overheads are actually used in this one, and it just sounds so impressive. As I mentioned, sound effects, gunshots, very loud. All of the action sequences just really have a great punch to them. And I love the fact that they were able to keep those original sounding sound effects in this mix. I know it was more based on the remastered 5.1 from years ago, but it sounds really, really great, and I had no complaints about it whatsoever. The other cool thing that's nice about this release is that you also get the original theatrical mono mix on this. It's in a split 2.0 mono, which is really nice. I listened to it for a little bit, but to be honest, I prefer the new Atmos mix. It just gives all of the audio in the film a lot more room to breathe, and they did a really good job with it. But if you're a purist, that split mono is included on here. There's also over 4 hours of special features on this one disc as well. There's some new featurettes on here. There's one that's actually called Generations and Dirty Harry, which is kind of a retrospective look on how Dirty Harry has affected cinema, and actually how different generations of people that have grown up with this film, like myself, have been affected by this movie and how they've been inspired by it. That was a really nice little featurette. And there's also another featurette called Lensing Justice, the cinematography of Dirty Harry, which is another one of these featurettes that looks at the way that the movie was directed by Don Siegel, the cinematography of Bruce Surtees, and really how this very much went against the grain of all cinematography up until that point. This was a real game changer, the way it was shot, the way it was made, the movie itself, really. So that's a nice little featurette that's in there. And then there's a ton of longer documentaries that are included in this. There's one that's called American Masters, Career Retrospective, which is all about Clint Eastwood. It's a look at his career up until around like Unforgiven. So that definitely came out back in like the mid-90s. And I think I may have actually seen it before, but that is almost 90 minutes long. It's a great little look back at his career from that time period. And then there's another documentary that's called The Man from Malpaso, which is an hour-long look at Clint Eastwood's career again. And then there's another one that's called Clint Eastwood, A Cinematic Legacy, Fighting for Justice. There's an interview gallery with a bunch of collaborators of Clint's over the years. There is another little featurette called Dirty Harry's Way, which is from an older release of Dirty Harry. That's, I think, a little under 10 minutes. And then there's a making of, like a vintage making of documentary called Dirty Harry, the Original, and that's about 30 minutes long. It also includes a feature-length commentary by critic Richard Schickel, and that's been on other releases as well, but they included it on here. So it's got a lot of great stuff. This is just another phenomenal 4K release here. I'm so glad we finally got this film remastered in 4K. All three of these releases are just some of the best that I have seen in a long time. They're all masterful transfers. They all look amazing in their own way. In my personal opinion, Josie Wales is the best out of all of them. But this is a really close second, and Pale Rider also looked absolutely phenomenal. But this definitely gets a high recommendation from me. If you want to pick up Dirty Harry on 4K, I'll leave a link in the description below that leads to Amazon. If you use that link, it does help me out a little bit here on the channel, so I do appreciate it. If you really want to help me out, hit that thumbs up button if you like this video, and hit the subscribe button, because I do a lot of reviews here. A lot of 4Ks, a lot of Blu-ray reviews. I always try to do at least one a week. This past week, I've done like 4. So I am spent, but I love doing this kind of thing. It's a passion of mine. I've been at this for a little over 10 years now, and I have no intention of stopping anytime soon. So I really hope you enjoyed this video, and thank you so much for coming back to Kavanaugh's Corner. Thank you again to Warner Brothers for sending this out. And as always, I wish you the very, very best. Please stay safe, keep collecting, and take it easy.